Kravitz. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to episode 333 of Picks and Ponies. I'm your host tonight, Pete Visco, filling in for Howard Kravitz, who is, I think, sitting on a flight and may be joining us in the chat at some point, flying all the way to California today to visit his brother and his sister-in-law. So if you are listening, Howard, safe travels. And I see Kyle Roscoe in the chat. So let's get the HHH and BNB boys in the chat to join us tonight. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a fantastic late pick 5 at Fairgrounds, which culminates in the Risen Star Stakes, which features a little horse named Sierra Leone, who I think our listeners might know is pretty important to the podcast, since we have a future bet amongst many of us on him to win the Derby. And then following that, please, everyone listening, and I'll mention this a couple times throughout the show, do not go away once Paul and I give out our late pick 5s, because America's favorite segment is going to happen again at the end of the show, Paul's Rant of the Week. If you missed it last week, you probably could have saved some money on Valentine's Day if you would have caught it last week. Hopefully you did. Hopefully you didn't spend too much money. So we'll see what he has in store for us this week. Before we get to that, though, let's hit a few administrative things. As you see on the bottom of the screen scrolling, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as Howard likes to say, smash that like button, hit that notification bell. If you hit the like button, it tells YouTube that we're a podcast that you like, and it'll show up in people's algorithms. If you hit the notification bell, then you'll get notified anytime we have sort of an ad hoc podcast. Some of our fans and viewers know our regular shows, but we have pop-ups all the time. So you want to be notified anytime those come up. So hit that notification bell. And like I said, subscribe. The higher the subscribers, the better we do as a show. For all you audio listeners out there, same thing. Please listen, subscribe, rate, review on wherever you listen to your podcast: Spotify, Apple Podcast, Anchor, Outcast, which is my favorite. Follow us on Twitter at @HKravitz. That's the Twitter handle for Howard and the show. So follow us there. We're also live on Instagram, HHH Racing Podcast, plus myself and Paul's handles will be in our little name tag at the bottom of the screen. So feel free to throw us a follow as well. Also, check out our website, hhhracingpodcast.com. Nice and easy. Contains lots of stuff. Sample podcasts, Power Picks info. Now we have Kentucky Derby and Oaks info, including top 10 list, links to other pages that are useful for Derby time, including the upcoming Pool 4. And we will have all the replays for every Oaks and Derby prep, so you can have a one-stop shop for when you're doing your pre-Derby handicapping and you want to find all the replays. They'll be there for you. Subscribe to our Power Picks, low price, $15.99 a month. Sign up under the video player. There's a link to Patreon. Also on our website, you can find the link. Like I said, you could find samples of what it looks like. So if you're curious but don't want to sign up yet, go to our website, check out the Power Picks page, and you can get a feel for the kind of information we include, how we're doing. We post our scores each week, so definitely worth a check. Check it out and subscribe, hopefully. Here's some big news. Grand reopening of the HHH merch store the week of February 19th. So sometime next week, maybe Monday, Tuesday, not sure of the date yet. We're going to reopen our merch store. I think it's going to be open for 2 weeks. More information to come. There will be an email if you're on our email list. I'm sure we'll post it to Twitter, or Howard will post it to our H. Kravitz site, our H. Kravitz profile. So look for that. There's going to be T-shirts, polos, hats, hoodies, koozies, everything you can think of. Also, I just wanted to show this really quickly let me take that off. If you go to our website too, so if you miss it, you don't look under the video player. If you missed a tweet, on here, there's a link, HHH merch store. Coming soon right now. Like I said, here's the description. There's also a video. Howard posted a video yesterday with a short description, of what's happening, what's going up, when it might go up, and then an opportunity for free $50 worth of merchandise. If you scroll up, there it is. You will receive a special offer for our listeners only. You will receive your first $50 of merchandise free if Sierra Leone wins the Kentucky Derby. Like I said, he's a favorite of all of us on the show. We want him to win. Now you'll want him to win too. $50 free. Details on that to come, exactly the logistics of how it will work. So pay attention, like I said, and we'll post all the details on the website. Like I said, Twitter, wherever you want to go, everything will be there. So please check it out. There's some great merch. You see here, I have my quarter zip. We'll be offering these, and it'll have the HHH logo. It'll have the Bettin' and Boozin' logo, whatever tickles your fancy. Real quick, upcoming shows. Monday, 2/19, our regular horsing around. We'll be recapping the fairground stakes and whatever other exciting action happens over the weekend. But a big one I wanted to announce that's not on our normal schedule. Saturday, February 24th, live coverage of the Saudi Cup and the two turf races, I think, that lead into the Saudi Cup. And we'll have on our special guest who's been on many times, UK punter Davy Lane. He's a fantastic guest. It's a fantastic card of racing. We'll be with you live, handicapping, talking through the results. So please join us for that. It's definitely a worthwhile show. We did it last year, and we might have done it the last 2 years. It's a lot of fun. Times will be you'll see on our page and on Twitter what time it's going to start. We don't know any of that yet. But again, keep an eye out and definitely join us for that. Now, without further ado, let me bring in my co-host tonight, since it's just going to be the two of us, from the Saratoga Special and king of the rant, my man, Paul Halloran. What's up, my friend?
Hey, Pete, how you doing?
I am doing fantastic. How about you today?
Good. I'm looking forward to this card, and we might get away with talking about the weather less with Uncle Howard not with us.
Well, I figured when we got to the turf races, we were going to mention that. So we can touch on it right before the first leg, because there is potentially weather. Paul and I hate weather discussions because, first of all, weathermen don't know squat. And 2 days from now, who knows what the weather's going to be? So why dwell on it today? Let's not ruin our show and our picks. Let's have a good time and hope for a fast track. So what else? You looking? This card is awesome, huh, Paul? This sequence especially.
The card is awesome, but how about the fact that this Risen Star is by open lengths the toughest Derby prep to this point?
Crazy.
I mean, it's not even close.
It's unbelievable.
So Chad was planning on sending our guy down there because his style and the way he runs and he closes and be friendlier. But I wonder if he had it to do over again if he would have taken that Sam F. Davis
route.
Last week.
Yeah, that one was a little bit softer than this one, but I think.
But it's good though. As our friend Matt Miller brings up, Pete. If you're not good enough to get enough points, you're not going to be good enough to win the race.
Then don't be in the race. You know me. We're old school. We like when they knock heads. I don't need 50 different preps where some horse beats some garbage field, and then you get to the Derby and you can't really handicap them because you don't really know how they're going to fare against other competition.
I agree.
Actually,
when we.
Oh,
go ahead, Pete. Yeah, I was going to say when we get to the race, when we talk about it, Hall of Fame will fit right into that category, right? We just don't know. We just don't know.
What's funny is I do a top 10 for the Oaks and the Derby each week, and I can't remember. I put a note in for each one. I think in one of the races, 4 of my top 10 are in it, in the Rachel Alexandra, and in the Risen Star, 5 or 4 or 5 in the other one. So 2 fantastic preps with top-notch horses. Before we jump into it real quick, let's just see who's in the chat here. We can say hello. RDW, Racing Downwind, always a pleasure. Who else we got? Rudy Nastov. I don't know if I recognize that name. If I do, hello again. If I don't, welcome to the show. Look at this. Kyle Roscoe in the chat. New boss, huh? I don't know about boss. Just, replacement just for the day. Let's see who we got. Oh, we got Stole It Breezing, who was in last week. Terrific card. Paul Conlon. I hope Paul's rant has to do with the Ryan Moore suspension and fine for excessive whipping in the Breeders' Cup. I think we might have had that. I think you might have had that rant right after the Breeders' Cup, so it wasn't an official Paul's rant of the week, but I think that definitely happened. Oh, here's from Kyle. Maybe polos, quarter zips, and hats will all be embroidered this year as well. Really trying to up the quality for everyone. Super excited, especially for the B&B merch. Well, embroidered. Boy, sparing no expense on the HHH Racing podcast. Also, our great friend Jim Pillar's show is really running smoothly with Pete and Paul. We got a lot of time for us to mess it up, Jim. Don't you worry about that. There's plenty. My wife did say, Paul, she's like, I know how you and Paul get. Try to keep it to an hour or so. I was like, there's zero chance of that with me and him on there.
But come on, that's not even 12 minutes a race.
Come on, we got a lot to talk about. Long shots for the first race, having trouble. First race of the card or first race of the sequence, Mike? Give us a.
I think he means the sequence.
The sequence. That is a pretty tough one. But let's jump in. Let's actually get into the races instead of me and you just blathering about like we always do. Race 10, the Albert M. Stahl Memorial Stakes. Thanks, Mike. He's talking about the sequence. Let's get into it. We have a 1.16 miles on the turf, purse 100,000. We have a field of 13 with a lukewarm favorite, Spirit and Glory, for Falcone. And we have, this is one where when you see on the screen, I'm going to bring up our picks right now. You see on the screen, we all included on turf, off turf picks just so we have them. So again, wait till Saturday. If it comes up like that, if it comes up wet and they take everything off, at least you'll have our picks. Paul, we're going to start with you pretty much because it's just me and you tonight. You are going with the 5 horse. Let's scroll down a bit to your horse. You're going with the 5, Spirit and Glory, picking up Pratt, coming off a pretty lengthy layoff. What do you like about this one? And does the layoff concern you at all?
No, because I think Robbie Falcone's numbers are okay, Pete, on this type of layoff. What I like about it is I always like it when East Coast horses ship west.
Yep.
And that Yellow Ribbon came up okay this year. Closing Remarks is a good horse, went on to win the next one. And, this mare just missed in that race. It had a little trouble. If you look at the comments, you watch the race, steadied on the first turn. He was flying. She was flying late under Berrios. I think the horse, I just don't. I think the layoff is of note, but between Pratt and the consistency that this horse showed at the end of her 4-year-old year, I think this is the right spot for her to come back. And, it's a layoff. It was August, so it wasn't like it's December to February. It's August. So, that's a viable concern. But, again, you look at this horse, Pete, has been ridden by a bunch of different jockeys. We talk about that all the time,
it's
right?
Crazy, right? I mean, what do we got?
Nick Juarez and Trevor and Hector Diaz and Izzy Castillo and no disrespect to any of the and Irad, but maybe with the exception of Irad, this getting Mr. Pratt on the turf, or should I say Monsieur Pratt on the turf, is something. So, again, I don't. Is this a horse I'd be singling? No. Is this a horse I'd be using if they go off the turf? Absolutely not. But if they stay on, and lastly, Pete, I would say, the fact that the horse is bred a European, an Irish bred, you would think that if they do stay on the turf and it comes up not firm, that it probably isn't going to bother this horse, if not move her up.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And I guess the only thing is when you look at a favorite sometimes, and we're always looking to beat a favorite, maybe the layoff is the thing that can point you in that direction to try and fade this horse a bit. I don't think she's going to be. I mean, I think 3-1 is about where it's going to be. This is a pretty tough race. I did have one funny stat, which again is one of those ones that I don't know how to quantify or make sense of. Falcone 1 for 13 wins with jockey changes to Pratt, which is just a funny one to me. And I was like, that makes no sense to me because Pratt is fantastic, but it could just be the horses that he's getting. So I don't look too much into that, but it's just a funny one that jumped out at me. Let's look. So we also, by the way, I mentioned that you see Howard's picks as well. Even though he's not here, we're going to show his top 3 and we're going to have his pick 5. And we're also going to have an on turf, off turf pick 5 for all of us. So I wanted to mention that as well. My choice on top, and you don't have this one anywhere, is the 3 Creative Cairo. This is one of those horses that I feel like I've bet this horse all the time. And she always leaves you just a touch disappointed. She comes from behind. She's always leaves herself too much to do. She always has trouble finishing the deal. What I liked though last time, obviously getting the win was nice. Giroux got her in the clear, just sort of said, you know what? We got a little bit of pace in front of us. We're going to get in the clear and we're going to cruise. And what I do like is ever since the move to Lindsay Schultz, this horse has really done nothing wrong aside from just not get wins. Finally got over that hump, 2 for 3 at Fairground. I kind of like that. Top time form, late pace. So let's actually look. One thing I didn't do, if we look at the time form, which we generally do on here, it's coded fast. You see right here, we have the 4, the 8, the 12, all contesting the pace. So if you're looking for a race with closers here, and if you're favoring some closers, which I think you and I, our top picks are both going to be coming from off the pace most likely, then I think we're going to hope that pace projection actually plays out as it says. What did you have? Did you have anything against Creative Cairo? Any negatives, or did you just didn't make the top 3 kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Because when I went to play my pick 5, I used the top 3 I picked in these picks, and she was the 4th one I put in.
Gotcha.
Yeah, very, very playable. The type of horse that is probably going to be there somewhere. So no, I have nothing against her. Lost 4 back to our Callie Kim, who had been running very well at the end of last year. I did just off this not exact, but the 180 to 360 day, which is what I believe this falls into for Falcone, a much larger sample. He's 17%, so he holds that percentage okay over a longer, bigger sample.
Bigger sample size. Yep.
But yeah, I think, Pete, you bring up a good point about the race flow, and I think that time form is very valuable, for whatever you make of it. It's not just how they classify the race, but what I look at, Pete, is, and maybe you could bring it up again, is the number of horses that look like they'll be contending early. Yeah. So if you look at this, you have 5 horses. They're going to say there are legitimately 5 horses within a length or 2. Yeah. That means that even in addition to a fast pace, it looks like it's going to be a contested fast pace. Yep. And that really does play a factor late in the race. The famous Richie Migliore line, it's not how fast you run, it's how you run fast.
Yeah.
And if how you run fast is surrounded by 3 others, somehow in the same exact amount of time, that's more stressful than if you're doing it on your own. Right?
Well, and we especially know about it from good horses, and we have all good horses because we have a really high quality sequence. Good horses can go fast uncontested on the lead. So it's not the fractions necessarily. It's like you said, were they contested? Did they have someone on their hip? Did they have someone pushing them? Or were they just able to sort of do a nice, comfortable, fast pace because they have natural speed? In this case, the hope is for any of us who like the closers, myself, you, Trish, and some of the others in the chat, I think that's what we're looking for. So let's look. You have in second, we'll go to your second place horse, the 7, Fancy Martini, and actually Howard has this horse on top. What'd you like about this one? My biggest thing was just that last race. I tried to watch it and figure out, was there really something that I can point to that would say, that's okay, I'm going to really excuse that dud? I just didn't get what I wanted out of it. I don't know what you thought.
No, I agree. I agree. I will say that, Diodoro does tend to move them up second start off the layoff. I guess, Pete, I know what you're saying, but looking at this horse's 5 previous races, you could almost say that race had to be too bad to be true.
Yeah.
Because, you're looking at 82, 86, 86, 85, 85. That's a 5-race buyer sample in a row, folks. That's a pretty good sample.
Yeah.
Right?
Very consistent.
And then 62. Now, you can't say, well, it was Fairgrounds because the horses has a win over the Fairgrounds turf. Unless that win was when the fairgrounds turf was all torn up from the jazz festival, and maybe the horse likes that better.
Maybe that one doesn't count. Yeah, maybe that
So
one doesn't
yeah,
count.
a little karma move. Tyler gets on board. I think the price is going to be right. You mentioned, I agree with you 100% that I don't think the favorite is going to be much lower than 3-1, which means the other horses should hold their odds.
Yeah.
So I think the price. I think this horse looks tactical. Looks like he could close. No, I don't think he's going to come from last, but in a fast pace, he could sit 3 lengths off of it and still make a run. I don't know. I really look at this horse as the type of horse I'll be playing on the board.
Yeah.
I'm going to use him my pick 5, but Trish Smith, our friend, has some positive remarks about this
that's
horse.
always
They
a
want to
good
keep
sign,
him.
right? That is always a good sign.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Ken Ramsey might need the money. So,
if only that made horses run faster. If needing money only made the horses run faster and better, we'd all be rich, right?
So, I hear you on the last race, but I'm just hoping it's just a one-off, and we'll find out Saturday.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Real quick, we'll hit a couple other ones. Well, I had I had the 5. We both have the 13, which we'll scroll all the way down. Join the Dance, who again, since the move to Dallas Stewart, has actually been steadily not improving on, has, not from a buyer standpoint, has an 85, so it was right there, but just ran really well right behind Creative Cairo. The thing to me was, though, I don't know from the 13 hole with a horse who, again, I think is going to want to be forwardly placed, is going to turn the tables on Creative Cairo from all the way out here. But I like the horse. I think the one good thing, and if you look at the configuration, just for anybody who doesn't know fairgrounds as well, they're starting way back here. So it's not like you're going to come up on that turn quick. So my thought was maybe the 13 can get there. It doesn't have to gun, but can just sort of work their way over. And she is tactical enough to sit off and doesn't need the lead. What were you thinking on that? Do you think that one's a serious win contender, or is the post just compromise her too much?
No, you know what? No, I do, Pete. And what I think you're going to see, and you'll notice that the style of racing for this horse changed when they moved him to Rosario.
Yeah.
And I'm actually saying it in this race as a positive. It's going to come up with a pick of mine later on that is going to be a horse I like a lot. It doesn't mean they were doing anything wrong when Mark Casse had his jockeys sending this horse, but the combination of the fact, Pete, that the horse did not go to the lead either of the last 2 races, closed in both of them, what we think about the pace of this race, which is going to be fast, and you would think almost certainly this horse can't get all the way over from out there. I mean, look at the 12, who doesn't appear to be a factor at the end, but who looks like, is just nothing but speed. And the way that I think Rosario will ride him, I think that this horse will be closing. I don't know if she can get there, but I think she's going to have a better chance at running from well off of it than she would trying to track it as close as she did last time.
I agree. No, I agree. And so I was back and forth with that one. I was back and forth whether, and I don't know if you saw Jim's comment mocking us, thinking we're just talking about the double here. No, we'll get through it, Jim.
We'll get there. We'll pick it up. We'll pick it up.
I mean, we don't even need to talk about the last race. It's Sierra Leone, obviously, but we'll talk about it a little bit. Let's move on to the next one. So we have the 11th, the Mine Shaft, which is older horses going 1 1/16 on the dirt, 250,000. We have a field of 9, and a very odd field to me, where there's some horses in here that I just can't get right most of the time. The favorite is the number 3 Best Actor, and let's bring up our picks here. You are going with the 1. What a shock. You're going with your guy, Red Route 1, who I know I just couldn't get there on the win end. Always runs, always gives you a little bit of a thrill. What do you think he can do this time to finally hit the winner's circle?
It's not just because it's this. I do have a history with this horse.
Yes,
but I'm going to tell you why I like this horse.
Okay.
I believe. I remember watching the last race, and this horse. When we say this horse came from way out of it, we're talking like
Oh,
not in the picture, right?
not on
Not
the
on the
screen.
screen.
Yeah,
You
not on
can't
the
even
screen.
see the chicklet. You're like, where's my chicklet? Right? The horse was ridden differently last time, right?
Yeah.
Ran second, but I think that they're going to stick to that strategy. And I'm going to make a direct comparison, and I hope Matt Miller is watching. In the Keeneland contest last year, my whole contest ran through a horse called Barber Road.
Yep.
Barber Road, ironically, was in the one. He was in a race with Irad on the favorite. Barber Road was a big closer. The race before that, Raylu rode him differently. Rode very similar to the way Rosario rode this horse last time. I said, I like that horse. I like it if they're going to do that again. Of course, I was hoping they did that again. Anyway, long story short, he wins by a head, and I would have been knocked out of the contest early. But as a matter of fact, Pete, I texted Raylu after the races to thank him for bringing home my key horse in the contest. And he actually texted me back and he said, "Can I ask what you liked about him?"
Oh, really?
Proving he's not your average jockey, very thoughtful guy.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, what I liked is that you rode him differently last time, and I think that's a better style for him. And he said something like, "That's very perceptive," whatever. I got a feeling this horse, I don't know, maybe I'm just sentimental because I won a big contest with a horse like that, but I think this might be the time for this horse. And I know you've heard this story before. I'm thrilled that Michael Lawson is agreeing with me in the chat.
Yep.
I like that. And Michael is an astute observer. So I think in an atypical Rosario style change, Pete, usually it's what we just talked about. I think he does get the trip racing downwind, yes. I think he's a little more forward. And the other thing, Pete, he did run some of his, quote, bad efforts with some really good characters, right? Yeah. Arcangelo, Forte, Tapatrice. Who's that horse? Tapatrice?
I don't know that dog. That one is that one.
National Treasure, Mage. So, I mean, you can excuse some of the really bad-looking efforts on paper. Anyway, not just because I've always played the horse. I don't always play him on top, but I got a feeling that this is the race for this guy to win.
Well, one other quick note. You see he has 3 races with Lasix on the screen. He's got a win, and then that last one, which was actually good, chasing a horse, Saudi Crown, who's just out of his league and would be 1-50 in this race if he was in it. So I like the Lasix, and here at Fairgrounds we get the Lasix up, so that's a good thing for this horse. The one horse we have, the 3, Best Actor, who's a 3-1 favorite. You have in second, I have on top. To me, let me show real quick. We talked about sort of the difference in the time form. In this one, we see the cold here favors front runners. We see the 3 sort of has a nice comfortable lead. And I mean, in the end, to me, you got a horse who has the tactical advantage of the pace advantage, I should say, not tactical, has the pace advantage, has Pratt, great connections, is going to get on a clear lead. There's really no one in here that I was too worried about contesting the lead, even just out of, Smile Happy's the type who could sit right off, but isn't necessarily going to contest the lead. I just thought, why not? I mean, anytime I could take a horse on the front end who's quality, who has a jockey who knows how to do that. And then if you look down here, he's got a little bit of a layoff, but look at the last 3 works. You got the bullet here, another bullet, and then a nice 1:03, 5 furlong, just sort of maintenance work, it looks like there. So I just feel like this one is ready to go. He actually is a graded stakes winner before, so it's not like he hasn't been around company like this. I assume that's the same thing you're thinking with him in second.
Yeah, no, and you make a great case, and that time form they better ride my guy Red Route 1 differently if they want based on that time. If he's that far back and the pace is that slow, it's going to be no bueno, as our Uncle Howard would say. But yeah, no, this horse has run 1 1/8 in the Oklahoma Derby, and got beat by pretty decent horses, but doesn't look like gave it up because of the distance. And, those last 2 races are good. Now, they were easy leads in, the Aqueduct race was, not slow, but not fast paces,
No.
right? And everything his own way. But you might be right. He might get everything his own way on Saturday as well.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets that again, then it won't be much different. Oh, look real quick at a couple others in here. The 7 money supply, just for everyone, I'm sure everyone noticed if you handicapped the card. This one is entered here and in the 12th on the turf. So
Yeah.
that's a weird one to me. I like the horse here. I just thought, I mean, since the switch to the Sharp barn and even just before that, has done really nothing wrong. Is another closer, so again could be potentially pace compromised, but it's 2 for 3 at the distance. Has a win over the track here, and again I think has wins on a sloppy track if it does come up wet. I just don't know which one. I don't know if he goes to the turf race and then they take it off and he says, well, you know what, I like that one.
Well,
if they see the rain in there, I like that one a little better. Might be a little easier.
I almost think, Pete, maybe that's why he's entered in that race.
Yeah, it could be. It could be, right?
Because if the 12th race is a grade 3, 175,000. If it gets taken off the turf, you got to think it's going to lose a decent number of horses. There's a lot of horses in there who look like they want no part of any type of dirt, right? So maybe this horse is entered in that race specifically because I'll tell you, I don't see a lot of turf pedigree. Candy Ride, the Dam Sire, has been pretty good with especially synthetic horses. But
I had it here actually.
Top to bottom,
Practical Joke, 6% turf roots, and the Dam Side 1 for 10 turf roots. Yeah, so it doesn't jump out at you.
So maybe it's that they saw the forecast. Although these entries are out last Saturday,
were out
so they
were
looking at a goddamn long range forecast.
No, you never know.
But maybe they think, you know what, that 12th might come up pretty easy if it comes off the turf.
It comes off, and that's some free money, basically. The last one I
don't know. That's all speculation.
Yeah, that's why we don't like to get too wrapped up in it because you don't know what the field's going to look like. The last one I want to touch on is Smile Happy. Neither one of us has this horse in their top 3, but I think I have it. I think I might have him. I don't remember if he got cut or not for my pick 5. But this is just a Jekyll and Hyde horse. It's somebody, I think Michael or RDW might have mentioned in the chat. It's just one of those horses that you never know what you're going to get. His best race beats this field, or his worst race like last week, puts him in the back. I don't know. You have any thoughts on him one way or the other? Is he just a toss because of the last couple and the inconsistency, or what do you do with a horse like this?
You know what, Pete? That's a good. If you're playing the pick 5, I think you have to keep the horse in somewhere.
Yeah,
because,
I agree.
That 110 buyer sticks out like, the sorest of thumbs in this race, right?
And I wasn't against bums either, our collector.
No, yeah, a 110 wire wins this race for fun. I think this horse is very tough to read. Ran okay in the Oaklawn Mile, ran lights out in the Alley Sheba on Derby Day. I was there for that race. Didn't run terrible in the Stephen Foster. Stephen Foster, we did that race. That race came up pretty good this year.
It did.
The last race, however, El Stinko.
Just a dud. Yeah, there was no running at all. I actually picked him, and that was a dud. So you just don't know. Yeah. You just don't know what.
But you know what? You picked him, Pete. You play him at 5-2. Now you're going to feel stupid if he wins at 5-1.
Yeah, especially when he's maybe the most talented horse in the field. The last thing, if I had a stat, McPeak, 0 for 20 on the win end, second after this type of layoff, 180 to 210.
Oh, good.
Yeah, another.
I think this horse might take a little more money than it looks, Pete.
People know him. People see the buyer. Buyers play sometimes. So that's the thing. All right, let's move to the next one. Again, we're going to be on the turf here. So we have the Fairgrounds Stakes, 1 1/8 on the turf, 175 grand. Really, really fun field, though, if it stays on. I really hope it does. We have 12 going with the favorite, the number 3, Strong Quality, another one who's a sort of an on-the-pace type horse. So you have, and you see on the bottom of our screen again, we have on turf, off turf picks. Paul is going with that 3, Strong Quality. Again, let's look for this since you're going to talk about the speed horse. We don't have it. It's not coded cold, but he is pretty far ahead here. So
yeah, Pete, I got to be honest with you. And, we're going to give out a pick 5.
Yeah.
You know I'm going to play a pick 5 on Saturday because I can't help myself.
Well, it's
But
obviously.
if this race being in the middle of the sequence, if I were really doing it correctly, I wouldn't play it. I feel so strongly about this race, Pete, that when we get, you'll see in the picks, I have the first two the same on dirt and on turf, and that's not just because I'm lazy. Not just because I'm lazy. It's just because I couldn't figure the goddamn race out. Okay, I have
I
written on
actually
my
like the two. Yeah.
I have written on my PP's spread race.
Nice.
If I were playing a caveman and I liked a single somewhere along the line, I'd be tempted to hit the all button. I just don't have a feeling in this race. I kind of hope it comes off the turf because I think that'll eliminate half of them, and then I'm only half as confused. But I do think. I'll tell you what, though, that is an interesting time form that you just put up.
Yeah.
Just because of the gap, like we just talked about, right? That 5 horses within a length.
Yeah.
That horse, there was no one within a length and a half, 2 lengths, right?
Yeah, I know. And
Giroux's a good front end guy.
He is.
Right. The horse, why I left him the same. If you look, Pete, he is 3 for 7 on 3 for 6 on turf.
Yep.
And 2 for 10 on dirt. Right.
Yeah.
So I just kept them there either way. I think this will be a horse that stays, obviously, if they come off.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the race goes, Pete, please help me because I have no clue.
Well, we always throw a couple stats. Mark Cassidy, 1 for 27 win in stakes on turf at Fairgrounds, but his first win out of that 27 was last race with this horse. So, trends can be broken. We always talk about the trends. They can be broken. The horse I have on top will go all the way down here to the 10. I'm going to go with a horse that when you look at him, you go, what the heck are you doing picking a horse like this on top? Beatbox, 3 races in a row, finishing second. Not the greatest thing in the world that you want. But he hits the board. He gives you a run. Look, you got the 3 for 3 in second at Fairgrounds, as you can see. Those are the last 3. Never been beyond a mile and a 16th. This one's a mile and an 1/8. The one thing I did like, I like that so on the sire end, obviously Pioneer and the Nile, there are horses who can go long. So what I'm thinking with this horse, he seems to be rounding into, he's just in good form. He just can't get the win. It sounds a little bit similar to Creative Cairo in 2 races back. Now I think if we have a speed horse, the speed horse here, I think may get a little weary with the mile and an 1/8. I think if this one is tactical enough, can be tactical, but can also come from far back. So whatever trip he gets, I feel like this might be the time that he finally gets up and finally runs this horse down. I mean, it's not very scientific because he just loves to run second and doesn't really win a lot. But I think he's going to be due. And I like just the fact you got your boy Rosario, who you've been all over today. So you're on this horse. Where are you? You're on.
Yeah, I got him third. And Pete,
third.
I'm very honest with you, not just because you just gave an eloquent dissertation on this horse, and it was very eloquent.
Thank you.
I almost picked this horse on top.
Okay.
I almost did. I did get a little spooked. Not only just because of the 3 seconds in a row, but you got to go all the way back to last January before you find a win. Period.
Yeah.
Right. But I do, horses like this, they do win once in a while because if you're always going to be in the picture, sometimes it's not about what you do, it's about what the others do.
Yeah.
And if the circumstances just fall right based on what the others do, and this horse is always around, if this race stays on turf, this horse will be an A in my grid.
I agree. You see,
Uncle Howard likes the 2.
He likes the 2. Real quick, we'll hit the 11, then we'll hit the 2. We both have the 11. I don't want to get into it too much. I just thought the added distance would be good. I think this horse is just in sort of good form right now. He had 1 race at 9 furlongs back here in the Virginia Derby. Didn't run well, but it was the Integration Program Trading, Runaway Storm, who were all next out winners after that. So it was a quality field. I think this horse can sit a little bit mid-pack. I think you said this earlier I forget which horse we were talking. Oh, it was Red Route 1. Certain horses, they sort of switched their style a bit. This one was frontally placed, and was doing okay, getting some wins, then started coming from the back and struggled a bit. Now he's been a little closer, so we'll see if he can get that kind of trip again. I don't know if you have anything on Gigante or Gigante.
Yeah, I think that the ride of the Virginia Derby makes no sense because does look like a horse who wants to be forwardly placed, and all of a sudden he's 8th out of 9 in a graded stakes, and I think you could carry that through to the next race too at Keeneland.
Well, and you look too, this is one who's had a different jockey every race.
Yep.
So none of them get to know how his style is and how he likes to run. And now Morales is up second time after the win. I sort of like that as well.
And he's tend to be a little more aggressive, right? So
I think so.
I have the 11-second, Pete. I have the 11-second on dirt, turf, synthetic, plastic,
everywhere,
cement, whatever you want. I got them.
Wherever you put them. Howard has Chasing the Crown. We won't go into him. Loveberry, Maker. I did have, I think, was that for him? Maker, 0 for 24 on the win end, 9 furlongs and up on the turf at Fairgrounds, which is funny because we always think of Maker as a long distance turf guy, but for some reason at the Fairgrounds, whatever he does doesn't seem to play, which is what sort of turned me off a little bit about this horse. All right, let's go to the 13th, and now we're going to get into the juicy ones. The Rachel Alexandra Stakes, Kentucky Oaks Prep, fantastic race, 300,000, mile and a 16th on the dirt. We have 7 horses going. Favorite is a soft favorite, the number 6, Vivi's Dream for McPeak. You are going with the 1, Tarifa. I listened to the replay and cannot remember how to pronounce the name correctly. But you're going with the 1, Tarifa Godolphin, which isn't very surprising coming from you. I mean, you got the shirt on and everything. So what do you like about this one? In a fantastic. Oh, and the note I had, 4 of my Kentucky Oaks top 10 are in this race. So 4 out of 7 are in this race. So that's crazy. Wow. Just a crazy deep field for, they usually avoid each other. And now they're all, and the 1 here isn't one of them. So really 5 high quality horses.
I'll tell you one thing, Pete. Fairgrounds has done a good job as far as enhancing their role and status on the road to both the Derby and the Oaks. Right?
Agree.
You changed the distances of the Derby preps to, more almost exactly align, with the Derby. The Louisiana Derby itself, I think, is mile and 3/16 now, which is just 1/16 short of. Intricate. I would agree with that. Intricate looks good. So, but you didn't ask that. I think this is a horse on the improve. I like the fact that the horse has a race over the track. I like the fact that as a young horse faced some adversity last time that you don't often see that type of running line, I think, Pete, in the 3rd career race, right?
Agree. Yeah.
3rd, gets to the lead. Florent won too early, gets past, and now comes back. Now, someone might say, well, you idiot, he's 3 to 5. She should win at 3 to 5. But that doesn't always work that way, especially, first race of the 3-year-old year. They're still developing. They're still learning. Yeah. So I really look at this horse as a horse on the improve. The 86, Pete, fits. It's as good as anyone, I think, right? Is there any?
I think best.
There's an 88 for Vivi's Dream.
That's right. There's an 88. Yeah.
But I think so. The 86 is competitive. Cox at the Fairgrounds. You can see. You don't need us to tell you how well he does down there.
Yeah, just a little bit hot during this meet right now.
Yeah. So Pratt. Pratt to boot. So I think, to your point, you have 4 of your top Oaks horses in the race.
Yeah. There's
only 7 horses in the race, but tell me if you were in this race saying, okay, I want to start throwing horses out. Where do you, Perfect Shot is 10 to 1 and was second to West Omaha, who's in this race at 9 to 2. Yeah. That's your long shot. Horse who ran second last night. Pennock is 8 to 1, has never lost.
Never lost, yeah.
So, where do you start throwing horses out in this race? Which means anyone can win it, which means if I can get 5 to 1 on a Brad Cox Godolphin, I'm all in.
Yeah, let's look at we'll look at the time form quick too. We didn't look at it yet for this one.
Oh, likey. I likey.
Pennick going right out, and then your
I
horse
likey.
Tarifa sitting right out. So if Pennick, we didn't look at Pennick in detail, and we won't because I don't think either one of us has Pennick. But Pennick is going from 4.5 and 5.5, now stretching out to 1.116. So we don't know if she's going to be cheap speed or not. It may just be out there just waiting to get run down, and your horse could sit right in the pocket from the one hole, and I think just work out a beautiful trip. I'm going to go with the 7. This is just a horse I really like. I really liked West Omaha. I like the win already in the 4-year-olds or the 3-year-old season. I like getting the win in, and it was super impressive too. And it was a step up from a buyer standpoint, from a time form standpoint. Again, Cox West. I think I've sort of done that to death in this sequence already. Lost to Alpine Princess, who's in this race 2 back, but was chasing it on a slow pace. I don't think that's going to be the case. Alpine Princess isn't going to get away, not with the 2 in here. I think this one, Saez, who was up last time, could be just as aggressive and sort of survey the scene. If the 2 is out there, I think West Omaha can make a move early, try and just attack that horse and attack the 1 and see what she can do late. But I just really think this is a super talented horse. I really like her a lot. And even in this field, I think if she can step up forward from that last one, she's going to be pretty tough to beat. You have this horse in 3rd, so obviously you like this horse a little. Anything else to add?
No, we just should talk a little bit about the 6 because the 6.
Yeah, I was going to get there next. Yep,
will be the favorite and really hasn't done anything wrong. 3rd last time in the slop. We might have the slop again. The Matolis are really running well beyond the $15,000 stallion fee, the former stallion fee. Brian Hernandez, every start. This horse has been the favorite in every race, so you're not going to get any value. But this horse ran. There really isn't a bad race on the chart. You could say the last race, but you may want to excuse that because of the slop.
Well, and Jinjin, who's not great or anything, but Jinjin came back with, Jinjin, what was it? I think the Busanda, so came back with a win in her first start of the year. So maybe she's much improved. So that would flatter that race a little bit. Excuse me. My biggest concern with this, I was looking through some of the siblings under Matoli for this horse, and there was a lot of them that sort of, and they top out at a mile, and they top out at sort of, I guess the mile and 16th is starting to stretch it a little bit, and there weren't as many wins there. So I just wondered if the longer they go, but again, this one's, we're only going a mile and a 16th here. So a
Tapit mare, you got to figure helps.
Yeah.
But I hear, I'll tell you one thing. In his era, they didn't come much faster than Matoli.
No.
He was a rocket ship.
Which is funny because that's not her game. She's got like a nice mix of the 2 where she could sit. She's tactical. She's she's definitely hard to leave off. You have her 2nd, I have her 3rd. Howard has.
Oh no, she's a factor.
The last one we'll talk about, Intricate. He's got Intricate. Yeah. I have her in 2nd. We heard some love for her in the chat. The way I look at this horse, again, the debut sprinting, that's just one of those, was maybe too far behind. The pace heated up early, but then it sort of cooled off a bit. And that's just maybe a horse who doesn't want to sprint. You look at the breeding, and that's not surprising. Then comes out in the next 2 and just sort of dominates the field. And this was a tough field on paper. Torpedo Anna, Central Avenue. That was a really tough field.
It was.
Jin was in that, came back to win the Basanda. I did have Brendan Walsh 2 for 29 first after this kind of layoff in graded stakes. So, if that scares you off a bit, but I think this is just a super talented horse. But we could say that about at least 5 of the 7 look like real Oaks contenders. So
yeah, no, it's a good race. It's a good race.
I wouldn't be shocked if any of them win, and a good horse is going to run 5th in this race, and a real high quality horse. So it's going to be an interesting one for sure. Let's move to the feature. The Risen Star Stakes, 400,000, 1.8 miles for 3-year-olds on the dirt. We have a big field of 12 going. The favorite, very lukewarm again, the number 11 Track Phantom. And this race features Sierra Leone, who I'm sure we will talk about in a bit. And you are going with Sierra Leone. You are staying true to our Kentucky Derby future bet. Is this a heart bet, or is this you have a solid case why you like this one on top?
Well, Pete, I got to tell you, I think the Remsen has come back very, very strong.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about it last week. You know, we can all read the numbers, but if anyone thinks that Dornoch ran the best race, and Dornoch is a good horse. Danny Gargan thinks he's the best horse he's ever had.
Yeah.
He's a full brother to Mage, I believe, right? This horse ran. You want to talk about you can't see the chiclet, Pete? The chiclet in that race at Aqueduct, Sierra Leone's chiclet was in Staten Island at one point.
Well, you want to laugh.
Okay.
I told my wife that we had put a bet in. I'm like, oh, we're going to watch the race. We have a future bet on this horse, and the race is going. And she's like, why is your horse, isn't the horse supposed to at least be on the screen? I'm like, yeah, well, he'll be coming. And then he made the move, and I'm like, oh, here he comes now. Now we're getting that.
Yeah, and no fault of I will say this. I brought it up in a text thread earlier in the week. I'm very interested, if not concerned. I'd like to know why Jose Ortiz is staying at Gulfstream to ride only a Grade 3 stakes.
Yeah, that's weird, right? It's weird.
Unless I mean, Chad's a businessman, and Chad rides Jose a lot, but I don't know what you could find wrong. You can't say he moved too early. He had to make a big sweeping move, and he didn't do anything wrong. Dornoch just dug in and came back on the rail on a day that you could argue the rail was a place to be at. I don't know, but I just think that this is a really good horse, not because we have the future. I'm interested in the blinkers. This is clearly an experiment by Chad.
Yeah.
I'm typically not a huge fan of equipment changes in graded stakes races, but you want to do it. If you're going to do it for the first time, you want to do it in February, not the first Saturday in May, presuming he gets there. I just thought he ran the best race last time in for a Grade 2 at Aqueduct, which is typically not a loaded race, has come back very strong based on how the horses have run next time. But Pete, my original caveman, I was 6 deep in this race.
It's a tough
after
race.
Saying all that. I cut it down to 3 for budget purposes, but again, you should pull up the time form for this one if they have it, Pete, because that's that's going to be a factor.
Oh, we have let's see that. Chad, 0 for 14 last 5 years, adding blinkers and graded stakes. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
good
that
to
makes
know.
Yeah, interesting. The time form. Hall of Fame is a big X factor. That was race. It was a monster race.
Yeah.
Look at $1.4 million gun runner. But as much as a monster race as it was, Pete, don't you have to figure that the horse doesn't get it? Could win this race, but it ain't going to be like that. It ain't going to be like, tracking an okay pace and then just blowing by 10. I think if this horse wins this race, he's a real contender for.
Agree. He's won, and the two things that worried me a bit. One, he sort of freaked. I mean, it was a fast pace. He sat off, but it was a really, really weak field when you sort of look at it in retrospect. But he does win by 10. Now he's going from maiden special weight into a very tough Derby prep. So it's not like he's going from a maiden special to a race where he's clearly the best. I mean, he's 6-1 for a reason. He had Lasix last time and ran great. He didn't have Lasix in his debut, and he was fine. He just wasn't anything stupendous. Like, you wouldn't have ever seen this come from after this. So I didn't know if Lasix moved him up a bit. Other than that, Asmussen, 8 for 93, 3-year-old, 9 furlongs and up, graded stakes on dirt. So it's, for some reason, it's just not, it's not his thing sometimes. So, and
don't you figure that, excuse me, go ahead.
No, please, go ahead.
I was going to say, don't you figure that Ron Anderson, who's the agent for Joel Rosario, had his pick in this race and chose Track Phantom for Rosario?
You know what? Maybe I'm never great for trying to figure that out. So I tend to. I
think so. I think so.
I don't disagree with you. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. But
now let me say this: Asmussen might like Santana on a horse that
That's
is
going to be
certainly figures to be forward,
forward.
right?
Yep, I could see that too. Yeah.
So who knows? I will tell you this though, and I think was it Michael Lawson in the chat? I'm with them. I am anti-track phantom in this race. I do not think that was a tough running of the Lecomte. I was on Nash because I played Nash. Nash is overrated. That divorce has been consummated. I am again 11 hole in a tough race. My play in this race is I am not on track phantom at all.
It's funny because I had Track Phantom as the top horse in my top 10, but more because I just thought he's done the most up until this point and he's proven himself. So you sort of want to reward a horse for being in great form, coming back, winning the graded stakes, sort of winning a Derby prep already and doing it convincingly. So, but if you look at the screen there, I don't even have him in my top three, and he's my number one. I'm going to go, and you have this horse in second. I'm going to go with Catching Freedom. I don't know if you not paid attention, but I don't know if you happened to rewatch the replay of the loss here. The trip was just dreadful. He was stuck. It wasn't a great ride. He was stuck behind horses. Giroux's sort of moving him. He's trying to get him around, and he just never got free. And still, he still finished with a little bit of something there. Then he comes out. He beats a nice field. He beat the 1-2 finishers ultimately in the Southwest in that last race.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. Picks up Saez.
I thought that, Pete, I thought he ran absolutely monstrous last time.
In that last one, right? Yeah, he was fantastic.
I'm watching the stretch kind of saying, this is a horse I might put a future on. But, when you already have a future on the winner, it's kind of, you don't want to cost yourself money by putting it on other horses.
Yeah. And we can actually just skip sort of to the end here, but down the...
Yeah, you can bring it to the stretch. He's the 2, right?
He's the 2 horse. Yep. Here we go. We should be coming.
I mean, he's
down.
8-5, so I'm not. But this is a good effort, right?
Yeah, especially because here he has to. He's going to have to swing.
I mean, 112-1. They're not exactly flying on the front end, folks.
No, you should be. And he goes by nice and easy once he lumbers a little bit there, but once he gets going, he goes by. I like the way he goes by. So he kicks in. It's sort of weird. Like I wasn't paying attention to the leads. I didn't know if he switched properly, but he sort of, once he kicks in, he went. And I think like all these horses, they're all pretty lightly raced. So they're all sort of figuring themselves out as they go. And obviously the connections here, the Cox Saez, 5 for 14 wins, 11 for 14 in the money at Fairgrounds in 2023-24. So that combination is pretty hot right there. Is there any other ones? Who else do we want to talk about in here? We hit Hall of Fame. Honor Marie's a good horse.
Honor Marie, Jim Palaz puts a good point. Yeah,
here we go.
Very, very good race in the Jockey Club.
I really like the horse. I just, you can. This is another one where you're gonna, if you have to pick a top 3, which we do for these purposes, you're gonna leave a good horse out just because this is a pretty deep field. So
you got it.
I don't know what else you can do.
Yeah,
there.
no, I mean, again, probably pace dependent, I would say.
Yeah, but I think we saw it's coded fast. I think there's a potential for speed in this race. So I think I don't think the closers are going to have an excuse in this one. But Honor Marie has been closing into not a ton of pace. So if this horse does get some pace finally,
Pete, at 12-1, we don't know how good Resilience might be. It's going to have to step up buyer-wise, but Bill Mott and John Velasquez are 12-1 on an Intermischief homebred. So this that's a horse in my ABCs. That horse has to be on my ticket. It was one of the ones that got dropped off my Caveman, but for budget purposes.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get beat by that horse. And look, I don't like Track Phantom, but if he stuffs me in the proverbial locker, as Uncle Howard would say, am I going to be shocked? No. I just think that, for example, if we're talking about value, I think Track Phantom is a more likely winner of this race than Resilience. Okay.
Oh,
however,
I think so. Yeah.
However, Do I want Track Phantom at 7-2 or Resilience at 12-1? I want Resilience at 12-1 every day and twice on Sunday.
Well, especially because
Yeah.
Track Phantom is going to have to put away and at least duel most likely with Hall of Fame. So Track Phantom is not going to be. I can't imagine Track Phantom being on the lead uncontested.
Yeah,
in this
I'm
race.
a little bit. I got to tell you, Pete, I'm against Track Phantom, and Hall of Fame might win the Triple Crown. But I'm against Hall of Fame here.
Against here, I'll be curious. I'll be curious for the odds, the final betting odds when we get to this one. I think it's going to be.
Well, he's not going to be 6-1. There's too much buzz. There's more buzz around him than a hive
than anybody
outside a honey factory. Okay, I mean, please. Anyway,
all right. Well, let's get into our pick fives. I got Howard's here. I'm going to read them off. So Howard, we're going to go with his on the turf pick five. 3-5 with 1-3-4-7-8-9 with 2-3-5-9 with 1-4 with 4-7. That's $96. As you can see, he's got Sierra Leone, and who is the 7? Is that Hall of Fame, right? In the Risen Star, yes. And then Too Deep in the Rachel Alexandra. He's in that second leg. He's going basically with everyone. So for the most part,
yeah.
And then off the turf, I'll just read it for the audio listeners. The off the turf one. 2-8-9 with 1-3-4-5-6-7-8-9. So the 2 obviously wins for fun if the 2 stays in, since that's the only one missing. With the 3, with the 1-4-6-7, with 4-7, and that also is $96. Now we'll go to yours, Paul. I'll read yours off, and then you talk us through what you were thinking. On the turf, 3-5-7-13 with 1-3, with 3-11, with 1-4-6-7, with 4-7-8 for $96. And then off the turf, 2-8-10 with 1-3, with 3-7-11, with 1-4-6-7, with 4-7-8 for a cheating $108. But that doesn't count because it's not the real ticket.
He's got no signal up there.
That's true. Together. That's true. We're good. Plus, it's not the real ticket, so I don't think the budget counts on the ticket. So just we don't have to talk through the off the turf one. Just on the turf one, what was your thinking here, structure wise?
Well, I got to be honest with you, Pete. I almost singled Red Route 1. I know how silly that sounds, and the reason for it would have been to go 6 deep in the end. But then I said, you know what? Even though that's a wide open race, we have the Derby winner in the race. Do I really need to go 6 deep?
That's true.
I don't need to go 6 deep.
We got the Derby.
So winner. I'm going to go 3 deep, and I added the horse that you like in that race, right? Wasn't that the best actor, best product?
Yes, best actor, I think. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, because and especially when I saw the time form, I was glad I did that because if he gets that type of trip, maybe they run 3-1. So yeah, so I just I couldn't quite pull the trigger and single him, but I'll tell you, being 3 deep in the last leg is still, there's something that it's a tough race. It's
worrisome.
It's a tough race.
Well, I saw you went 4 out of 7 in the Rachel Alexandra. You took 4 of the 7 there, so you didn't mess around with losing to any of them. So. You didn't really want to risk it, even in a 7-horse field. You probably wouldn't do that.
Yes.
You probably wouldn't do that. Yeah. I assume you were ABCs. You would probably zero in on your top 2, maybe the one Tarifa, and I forget who your second horse was, but I assume you zero in.
Yes, but we talked about that race, right, and how I like Tarifa because of the value, right? But the reason that value will be there is because there's so many other horses who can win.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the nice thing about this card, I don't know if you're going to get an under, you may not, it wouldn't shock me if you didn't have an under 3-1 favorite in any of these races. It wouldn't, I mean, maybe 5-2, but I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, certainly not under, I don't think under 2-1.
Not under 2-1. For sure.
I'd give you that, but yeah, which means, that's why I got to play the sequence. Even though I hate the middle leg, I got to play the sequence. It's a horizontal sequence. How can I not play it? My name is Paul and I'm a horizontal sequenceaholic. Hey, good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Paul, or good night, Paul. One of the two. Yeah. Beer, and you'd have some beer and a sequence. It's a pretty good day in my book.
So what about your ticket, Pete?
Let's go to my ticket. So on the turf, we'll go with 3-5 with 3-4-7-9 with 3-10-11 with 4-7 with 3-4-7-8 and that is a $96 ticket. And then Off the Turf, 2-8 with 3-4-7-9 with 3-7-11 with 4-7 with 3-4-7-8. Also a $96 ticket. To me, the horse I almost singled Creative Cairo in the first leg, but then I got a little bit scared just because it's hard to single horses coming from off the pace that sometimes leave themselves too much to do. So I threw in the 5 horse there. Second leg, I don't have Red Route 1 in there, which I'm upset about now. It was close. I just think of him. He's going to finish second. I don't know who he's going to finish second to, but it's going to be.
That's reasonable.
I thought to somebody, and then in the Rachel Alexandra, I went with Intricate in West Omaha, and then I actually included Honor Marie in my pick 5 out of my 4 horses, I should say. And I think you're going to get a price out of, if Anna Marie wins, I think you're going to get every bit of that 6-1, just because I think, like you said, Hall of Fame is going to take money. Track Phantom takes money. Sierra Leone, who was the favorite, was the non other horse favorite in the early future, or in Vegas we saw the other day. So that horse, people like Sierra Leone. So we'll see. I think that last race is tough, and I think when going into it, you're going to want as many horses as you can squeeze into an ABC if you can get them, just to try and close that out. We'll finish off with a couple. Let's see. Oh, Jim Pilar's
has a very astute hot take.
My hot take, this is Jim Pilar's. My hot take is that the winner of the Kentucky Derby definitely comes out of the Risen Star, and it will not be the winner of the race. I like that. I could see that.
Well, that means we got Sierra Leone. It's got a 12-1, 1 in 12 chance to start with. And we got him at 150. So I like that, Jim.
I like that a lot too. Now we are going to get rid of this, and we are going to get to really what everyone is tuning in for. I don't even know why we're here otherwise, but we are going to get to, let me bring up our lovely little thing. Paul's rant of the day.
Oh, the music too. You guys are just well, I don't want to disappoint anyone, Pete, but for the second week in a row, my rant.
Hold on, let me put you on the screen first.
Cut the freaking music, will you, Pete?
Well, it's my first time with the rant of the week, so it's a little clunky, but
no, it's not going to be about horse racing. Last week, I think I struck a lot of nerves with my feelings on what the day yesterday was. Of course, everyone knows yesterday was Ash Wednesday, the second day of Mardi Gras, and Freddie Hightower's birthday, who plays, is it Hightower? Anyway, the guy who plays Dr. Sean Murphy on The Good Doctor, one of the great shows of all time. It was his birthday. So that was the significance of yesterday. But no, my rant is going to be about people who insist on trying to bring other people down for no reason. And I'm going to give you 2 examples, Pete. I don't know if you follow college women's basketball at all, but I do. And as of 3 minutes into our show, by the way, Pete, Caitlin Clark is the all-time leading scorer in women's basketball. She got her 8 points right away. There was a podcast, Pete. Now, you and I, we do podcasts every week, right? And we prepare, right? Doesn't mean we can't make a mistake, but you prepare more than any of us with all your stats. And we try to be accurate, right? So Cheryl Swoops, some people might remember her, was a great player at Texas Tech. She went on a podcast and was trying to tell people why we shouldn't consider Caitlin Clark as the real record holder. And her reasoning was that Caitlin Clark is in an extra year because she got an extra COVID year. She's in her 5th year. There's only one problem with that argument, folks. She's in her 4th year. She hasn't taken the extra COVID year. Now, you might say, who cares about all this? It's not about Caitlin Clark. It's about someone trying to find a reason to denigrate what's going to be the all-time leading scorer. And I'm going to give you one more example, Pete. You might have watched the football game on Sunday. The people, and we've referenced this in the past, the people who get worked up about them showing Taylor Swift and this and that, look it. I am a negative guy. I can find a negative in anyone. why would anyone be upset about this young woman who falls in love with a football player and she wears this jacket and she gets a purse with number 87? Who cares, Pete? It didn't affect your life. It didn't affect my life as I was eating my meatballs. But I think, again, it's people wanting to bring successful people down. And I will give you a horse racing analogy, and I'm guilty of it. The whole flight line conversation. I got all worked up when people compared Flightline to Secretariat. But that could be construed as being anti-Flightline and didn't run enough. When the real thing to do is just enjoy Flightline for what he is, which was the greatest horse of his particular, whatever, 3 or 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. So the rant is about, don't be looking to bring other people down. Look to bring yourself up. Okay, root for your horse to be as good as Flightline. Don't root for Flightline to be considered not as good as your horse. Enjoy Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Don't hope for them to break up tomorrow. And if you're going to be on a podcast like that moron Cheryl Swoops, don't get your goddamn facts wrong and base your whole argument on a faulty premise. So be prepared. Prepare like Pete is how I'll end my rant. And that's it.
What's funny is when I saw I know you love Caitlin Clark as I do as well. She's one of my 3 favorite women's players of all time. I saw that thing and I'm like, this is definitely going to be Paul's rant one of these weeks.
Did you see it?
It's going to be on the
you saw it, right?
Oh, I saw it.
Was it unbelievable?
It was absolutely ridiculous. It was so stupid. It was just not wanting someone, just wanting to make a name for yourself. And she has a huge name already. I mean, it's not like Cheryl Swoops isn't a huge name. But, people get on camera, they get on podcasts, they just want to say something now in this age of Stephen A. Smith and those kind of guys, and you just want to say something provocative. But like you said, if you're going to say something provocative like that, make it right, make it factual. Caitlin Clark is awesome.
Look, Pete, if I say something deadly wrong about a race, I expect you to say, geez, Paul, no, I think it was, I think he won that race. I don't think he ran second, as my good friend Tom Sofish. Or if you said something with your stats, I might say, geez, Pete, I was on Formulator. I think you got that one wrong. And you would say, oh, yeah, you know what? This was like someone on with her. And again, I know this is a horse racing podcast. Look, it's only 2 minutes out of your life. I got to come up with it's topical. She said the all-time. Last week was topical because Valentine's Day was coming up. This week was topical. Maybe next week I'll be ranting about how we got a bargain on an unbelievable bargain on Sierra Leone at 150 to 1 in the or cursing Howard for putting us on. We might next week, Pete. We might be saying no wonder why he was 150 to 1.
Well, it'll be great when your rant is about the host Howard. That would be fantastic because he's so excited.
Tonight would have been it. But I want him to be here when it's
That's
about
what
him.
I think it's more fun if he's staring, when he comes on at the camera, shell shocked afterwards after you put him down.
Pete, I'm happy. I'll tell you what. I like the Saudi thing, and that could be a rant too. You got to have mixed emotions about that. I mean, but it's a $20 million race, and we're obligated to cover it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I'm going to have a strong opinion in that race.
That's going to be. We're going to.
It ain't going to be on the favorite.
Hopefully we get to talk about that one, even though we're not. I don't know if you're going to join the show, or I don't know if we'll be on, but hopefully we at least get to talk about that one somewhere because it looks like a fantastic field.
Is that unbelievable? Well, you know what they say, Pete? $20 million. You put up $20 million.
Yeah. If you pay, they will come, right?
It doesn't matter that you got to fly more than halfway around the world. It's still, and you might get even better amenities because they have all that maximum security money to spend they don't have to get.
That's funny. That's awesome. Yeah, you keep that in the kitty now. Now that goes in somebody's pocket, basically. Well, thank you for the rant as always. I'm excited that you picked that one. I know some people in the chat maybe that wasn't up their alley, but I think as a general thought, it makes sense. And for Caitlin Clark, who I love, and I'm glad she broke the record tonight. Congratulations to her. I think that's fantastic. Look on the bottom. Once again, we want to thank everybody here on the YouTube channel. Hit the like button, hit the notification bell. Again, subscribe, everything. Same thing on the audio platforms. For myself, Pete Visco, and my co-host tonight, Paul Halloran, this is episode 333. That's a lucky number, I think, of the Picks and Ponies / HHH Racing podcast. Thanks, everyone, for joining. and crush those bets. Go Sierra Leone. Thanks, everybody.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.